On November 1st, shortly after 2:30 a.m., the police got a call reporting that a man had been shot at 810 Billiards and Bowling Houston. According to authorities, Takeoff, a member of the hip-hop band Migos, was fatally shot at a bowling alley in Houston, and this was a major blow to the rap business. The whole music world was shaken when news of Takeoff's sudden death broke out in the early hours of November 1st. Takeoff, the youngest member of the Grammy-winning rap group Migos, was shot and killed while playing dice with Quavo at a bowling alley in Houston, Texas. Witnesses say that the altercation broke out, which led to gunfire, and Takeoff was shot in the head or near his skull. Quavo and others tried to help him, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. 2 others were also shot and taken to the hospital, and the gunman is still at large. Later in an interview with Quavo, Takeoff's uncle, he reveals the actual truth behind the incident. In a video later released, Quavo can be heard arguing with a group of men just moments before Takeoff was killed. He can be heard calling someone disrespectful and using several expletives. Although some stories suggest that the fight started over a dice game, others say it was about basketball. Just seconds before the shooting, someone, possibly Takeoff, can be heard shouting, "I don't get down like that," before gunfire erupts. From Quavo's statements, it was a typical night at a bowling alley, but suddenly a single shot rang out and chaos followed. Takeoff, Quavo, and Offset, the Migos rappers, were a blood-related trio who crafted songs around the complicated interplay of their voices. They established themselves in the music industry as a family, rising together in a difficult and turbulent industry. Takeoff, Quavo's nephew, spent his youth with his cousins in the Atlanta suburb of Lawrenceville, Georgia, raised by Quavo's mother. After Takeoff's passing, Quavo made it online with a heart-touching tribute. The last time Quavo posted on Instagram was on October 31st, 2022, just a few hours before Takeoff was shot dead in Houston, Texas. For several days, Quavo remained silent on social media, and his fans were worried about his well-being. However, on November 12, 2022, Quavo finally broke his silence and shared a long letter on Instagram to mourn the passing of his nephew. The letter was accompanied by a series of images that showed Quavo and Takeoff at various stages of their lives, from childhood to adulthood. The images depicted the strong bond that they shared and the memories that they created together. Quavo's words were both emotional and heartbreaking as he reminisced about the times that they spent together. He recalled how Takeoff had always been by his side, looking up to him and waiting for him to make a move. He mentioned that Takeoff had a real passion for music and always dreamed of becoming a rapper. He stated that sports were not his thing because he saw Quavo lose all the time. Throughout the letter, Quavo kept addressing Takeoff directly, talking about the bond that they shared and the memories that they created together. He talked about how they hated the word nephew because it did not do justice to the relationship that they shared. He stated that they were much closer than that and that it made him feel old. Towards the end of the letter, Quavo shifted his focus from Takeoff to the reading public, talking about his nephew's love for music and how he helped make their dreams come true. He mentioned that Takeoff was their angel who watched over them and made sure that everyone felt his love and hugs while he was still alive. From 2008 to 2022, Takeoff made a massive impact in the rap genre, both inside and outside of being a member of the Migos trio. He had a deep, gruff tone of voice, the tumbling velocity of his flow, and his exquisite wordplay. His verse on the Migos' breakout track, Versace, is memorable for its uniqueness and creativity. It's truly ironic that the Migos rappers who redefined hip-hop in the mid-2010s are recognized for the technique known as the triplet flow. This technique refers to the convulsive vocal cadence that they made popular, which was also fitting considering that the Migos were a blood-related trio. It's a unique quality that sets them apart in the music industry. Now, let's keep all that aside. One of the major things that we notice is that whenever a black man in hip-hop dies from gun violence, the blame always seems to fall on hip-hop music itself. People say that the violence in rap music is responsible for the tragedies that we see in our communities. But is that really fair? I mean, as soon as Takeoff's news broke, people started blaming hip-hop and its supposed glorification of guns and violence. But journalists like Jameel Hill and artists like Chuck D are urging the hip-hop community to take a stand against gun violence and stop promoting it in their music. Even Lakeith Stanfield is calling out fans who supports gangster rap but also claims to support black lives. But here's the thing. Blaming hip-hop for gun violence is like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Gun violence is a problem that affects everyone in the country, not just people who listen to rap music. The hip-hop industry has always had a complicated relationship with guns. On one hand, many rappers use gun imagery and lyrics in their music as a way to express their experiences and struggles. It's a way to tell their stories and share their pain with the world. But on the other hand, this glorification of guns and violence can have real-world consequences. It can influence young people to think that gun violence is a solution to their problems. Now, I'm not saying that the hip-hop industry is solely responsible for gun violence. That'd be unfair and untrue. But I do think that we need to take a closer look at the impact that the culture of violence is having on our society. We need to ask ourselves some tough questions. Why are so many young people turning to guns as a way to solve their problems? What role does the media play in promoting this culture of violence? And what can we do to stop it? It's not an easy question to answer, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution. But I do think there can be a start by having honest and open conversations about gun violence and its impact on our communities. We need to listen to each other, even if we don't always agree. We need to acknowledge that gun violence is a complex issue and that there's no easy fix. As for Takeoff's death, it's hard to say that could have been done differently. Maybe if he had been in a different environment, surrounded by different people, things would have turned out differently. Maybe if we as a society didn't glorify guns and violence so much, tragedies like this wouldn't happen as often. It's impossible to know for sure. But what I do know is that we need to do better. If this is the sole reason behind this, then we need to come together and find solutions to this problem. But on the other hand, the issues that lead to gun violence in our communities existed long before hip-hop music ever did. Hip-hop historian Dart Adams makes a good point when he says that rap music becomes unaccountable for things that are beyond our control. Black communities already experience 10 times the number of gun homicides as white Americans, and blaming hip-hop for that is just a way to shift the blame away from the real issue. Desmond Upton Patton, a professor of social policy, communications, and medicine, also points out that there is no solid research linking violent hip-hop lyrics to gun violence. In fact, many artists use their music as a reflection of their own experiences, both past and present. So why does hip-hop always get singled out when it comes to violence? Adams believes that it's because hip-hop is still seen as an outsider culture, even after all these years. Gangster depictions in movies like The Godfather and Peaky Blinders are rarely brought up when discussing American violence. But when it comes to hip-hop, suddenly, it's all anyone can talk about. But we can't ignore the fact that the issues that Migos rap about still exist in our communities, whether we like it or not. As much as we want to blame hip-hop for everything, the reality is that we need to address the root causes of gun violence if we want to make any real progress. It's been tough for the hip-hop community as we lost Takeoff. It's time to mourn and reflect, but let's not use this tragedy to start pointing fingers and assigning blame. We need to come together and talk about the bigger picture. Yes, we should urge the hip-hop community to reconsider the usage of violent images in music, but we also need to acknowledge that this is a much larger issue than just one genre of music. We need to address the rampant gun violence that plagues America. It's okay to be sad and feel the pain of losing someone, especially when it feels like a universal loss. We need to remember that #Black men deserve to grow old, but we can't blame an entire musical genre for the actions of a few individuals. Let's have a real conversation about violence in our society and how we can work towards creating a safer future for everyone. It's time to take action and make a change. We owe it to ourselves and future generations to create a better world. So what do you guys think? Let's start a conversation and work towards a better future together. Anyway, please do drop what you guys see about this matter. Should raps be blamed, or is it something else? We'll see you guys in another episode. Until then, see ya.